We will see in this and many of the Gospels for next week how the tension just builds up with Jesus, and all the Gospels are picked particularly because they speak about how things get worse and worse, especially the relationship in between Jesus and Jewish authorities. And today we have in the Gospel something very common for the Gospel of John. He says that people have to pick a side, either for Christ or against Christ. And that's very common in St. John, but also that's what happens as we approach Holy Week. You have to choose to be with Christ or against Christ, as he himself says. But also today's Gospel gives us a lesson in logic. So we know that Jesus was falsely accused, and what will condemn him are false accusations in the end. And here we see the Pharisees literally frustrated with Jesus and using a very poor kind of logic. One fallacy for logic is what is known as, in Latin, ad hominem argument, against the person. An argument that is really not an argument. It's a fallacy because it's an argument that instead of giving reasons for the case that want to defend or prove, instead of giving that reason or reasons for that, instead of doing that, personally attack the person. So how this works is by discrediting the person instead of building an argument for your case. And this is what we see in the Gospel. So the guards come back and they ask them, why didn't you bring him? And they say, well, no one has ever spoken like this man. And so the argument is, have you also been deceived? So are you so full? It's no argument at all. It's just discrediting the guards for their attitude. And then the second argument is that the crowd, which does not know the law, is accursed. So they are a bunch of people who know nothing and just despise them because of that. And that is like all the argument they have. How does any of those arguments prove that Jesus is not the Christ? And third, when Nicodemus raises his voice, a third ad hominem argument. Are you also a Galilean? And if so, the implication is that he's not qualified to give his opinion. So as we can see, it's a message of logic as well as a message about Christ. Why? Just because of this, they are not using true logic, but also only trying to discredit Jesus. And as we will see in future Gospels, this just keeps, the tension keeps rising until they finally kill Jesus.